2. Minnesota Twins, they give up 15 runs. They get smoked by Toronto. We're breaking it all down next on the Locked On Twins postcast.
You are Locked On Twins postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Back in the lab, back at it. Another Minnesota Twins postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man, CJ Baumgartner. He's on X. Give him a follow at BaumCJ30, Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN. And CJ, before we jump into all the fun action from tonight's game, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, game 2 versus the Blue Jays. Only got these last 2 of 9 games at home during this 9-game homestand. Trying to get their mojo back a little bit. They got a win last night. Zebby on the mound. And, you know, we were joking before we jumped on. Don't blink. Don't show up late. Don't skip the previews, because you showed up even 10 minutes late to this one. It was over before it started. 7 runs allowed in the first inning. Jose Barrios had 7 runs of support before he even stepped on the mound that got out there. Disaster from the get-go. They never had a chance. Most hits they've allowed all season, 23. Tied for the most runs given up all season with 15. They gave up 15 to the New York Mets about a month ago. Twins still just trying to find their mojo, man. Final score 15-0. Shut up for the 8th time this season. Just start, as always, biggest takeaways, kind of your 8 topics. Then we'll do a little deep dive on Zebby's night as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could get after the offense for not scoring a run, and that's totally fair. But I think just the story of the game is this is what happens when you have to rely on 3 rookie pitchers. I'm counting Simeon Woods-Richardson as a rookie, but when you have to count 3 rookie pitchers throughout a rotation, they can have some starts, and Matthews and Festa and Woods-Richardson have all had plenty of good starts, or starts where you're like, okay, cool, put us in a position to win the game. But when you have those young guys, you're going to have them in a spot like that where they just get shelled because they're rookies and they have to take their lumps, and they get proven, they get shown that it's the big leagues and it's not AAA anymore, and the hitters are all good. And that's what happened. And like you talked about, before the Twins even got up to bat, they lost the game. I mean, what a demoralizing feeling if you're a Twins hitter. Before you even get your first at bat of the game, you're like, well, we lost. So you're still trying to go up there for your own numbers. But I mean, when you're down 4-0 and then eventually was 7-0, I showed up to the game to watch. Like, I watched from home, but I showed up, I turned it on 10 minutes late and they were down 4-0. And I was like, well, I already know what we're going to talk about on today's episode, because it's stuff like that. Zebby Matthews will be a nice major league pitcher, but in a rookie year, in your first handful of big league starts, these are always a possibility. And when you have to go through a rotation 2 more times with pitchers like that, you're just opening yourself up for these possibilities. Despite the chances of having those highs, the lows are very much real, and we saw it tonight.
Yeah, and we knew there was going to be growing pains with 3 starting rookie pitchers. This is just the position that they're in now. You got to roll with the punches. It is what it is, so to speak. Joe Ryan got hurt, obviously. Chris Paddock, we could go on and on, but definitely the ebbs and flows, as you said, about starting 3 rookie pitchers, especially during this crunch time here down this last month stretch of the season. Kansas City lost. Cleveland lost. That's really the only good news of the night. So no movement in the standings there. 3.5 back from Cleveland, 2.5 back from Kansas City, 3.5 ahead of Boston. This whole time I've been told they're going to get into the playoffs. They're going to get in. No way Boston's catching up to them. You're telling me 3.5 games doesn't worry you? Because I'm not sleeping very good at night right now, knowing that lead has shrunk as much as it has. Where's the panic meter, I guess, when it comes to still making the playoffs, just knowing the way they played as of late?
Yeah, the panic meter has gone up a couple notches, and it's not in entire freakout mode, because the Twins have gotten within 3 games, even 2 games of Cleveland before, and they've slipped out. And as we talk about ebbs and flows, Boston starting to win a couple games and kind of build momentum that way, while the Twins are at their lowest point. Law of averages states that things will swing back around. The Twins eventually will win enough games when the schedule softens up a little bit. in September. That's the glass half full perspective, but it's really hard to not see it half empty with just the way that things are falling apart right now. Because yeah, I mean, 3 games is, we talk about it all the time. If the Twins are 3 games back at Cleveland, we go, the division's right there. Just one good week for us, one bad week for them, and we're boom, roles reversed. Well, now when you're the team ahead, yeah, 3 games feels like such a big lead, and it's not really. So yeah, I mean, it's getting close, and Boston definitely has made it not a sizable gap. There's definitely some concern there.
The spectrum of things that could happen during this final stretch, this last month, these last 4 weeks, these last 25 games is just so huge for good. And obviously, like you're touching on, for bad as well. Just a little mini deep dive on Zebby's night, just a little bit more. 7 hits, 7 runs in the first inning, as mentioned. Roco lets him go another one. Final stat line, 2 innings, 10 hits, 9 earned, 3 home runs. A couple of questions, I guess. Number one, what wasn't working for him that we've seen work prior to tonight, I guess, as far as just his stuff goes? And then number 2, do you just chalk this up to a quote unquote rookie growing pain kind of night? Or did it feel like that was so bad that you'd be foolish not to worry for what's to come next time around?
Well, I mean, every pitcher, no matter if they're Pablo Lopez or if they're Zebby Matthews, has the capability of going out there and getting shelled one night. So that's the thing.
Sure.
If you play enough baseball games, you're going to just have that. You're going to have that happen to you. But overall, I think with Zebby Matthews, I think he'll still have a chance to be, he was never really going to be this ace pitcher, but could he have been a nice middle of the rotation arm? I still think that's very much in play. And the thing about Zebby Matthews is he doesn't walk anybody. I think he only walked 17 guys in his minor league career, and he didn't walk anybody today. And that's great. And it's aesthetically pleasing. And if you're a fan of throwback baseball, you really love it when guys pound the strike zone. I love it. It's so, with that out of the way, the downside of that approach, though, is if a team times you up and has a good game plan against you, you're going to be in the zone and they're going to take some big swings, and there's going to be a chance for some loud contact. And I think I got to double check this, but if I remember correctly, I think the average exit velocity off Zebby Matthews' fastball today was like 97 miles an hour, something ridiculous.
Wow.
Like just
Wow.
they knew he was going to come around the strike zone. They knew they were going to get pitches to hit. So if they timed up his fastball, they were going to be able to do it. And, he had some whiffs, he got some swings and misses, but overall, they knew he was going to be around the strike zone. And that's just the thing. I mean, Bailey Ober's a guy who's around the strike zone. Joe Ryan's a guy who's around the strike zone. That's the way the Twins like to operate. The downside of that is if you have a team that can time you up and is ready to be aggressive and it works out, you're going to get hit pretty hard.
Is Roco just forced to leave these guys out there, given the shape of the middle relievers, the bullpen, the whole situation back there? What was the rhyme and reason there, I guess? Like, did he just want him to, kind of learn from this, how to fight through these moments a little bit more? Or does he just really not have any other options that early? You see it in the comments. Skullbike says he might be trying to send a message to Thad Levine and company, like, see, this is what you wanted me to work with and win with. Look at us now.
Right. And, I think it's I think there can be a little bit of everything in some of this stuff. I think he is trying to, show a little bit of like, all right, rookie pitcher, go out there and learn from this opportunity. You got shelled, go back out there, see what you can do in that second inning. There's a little bit of that for sure. Because they already lost the game. So it doesn't matter if he goes out there again. His stats already look bad. Whatever. But I think really it's just more of the fact of they just need somebody to eat innings. And Kyle Farmer pitched 2 innings today. That's how badly they needed somebody to eat innings. And, the one plus side is that you didn't have you had no reason to pitch Jack Duran. So they're saved for a rubber match game. That's the only silver lining out of all this. But yeah, is it so much a message to the front office? Maybe. I would say probably not, because, and the front office, don't get me wrong, they deserve a lot of credit in a bad way for how this bullpen has turned out, because they brought in a lot of veterans. They spent a lot of their offseason acquisitions bringing in veteran arms for the bullpen, and almost all of them, if not all of them, have either been hurt or are not on this roster currently. So they deserve blame for that. Don't get me wrong. But I also think that, again, it's on back to spending and ownership. And when they felt like they were very constrained and all they could do, the veterans they brought in were not key veterans. They were not big veterans. They were just guys that they could afford. And when you're stuck, everybody, the front office kind of was in a box with who they could bring in. And then in turn, that means Roco was put in a box. Because again, Roco can't control who gets called up and down and who gets signed and cut. He can only work with the guys who are in the clubhouse, of the 13 pitchers that are in the clubhouse. And if the front office is in a box, in turn, that doubly puts Roco in a box, because he's, again, forced to have to put some of these guys out there who in any regular timeline would not be playing meaningful, needing to pitch meaningful innings for a team in a stretch run.
Yeah, good breakdown there. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Are there any, and really, I mean, any names floating out there that could help this pitching staff in any way? Brad Hand, I've heard. Matzik, maybe. I know it's kind of bottom of the barrel for sure, but it still feels like they could use any help they can get, whatever that looks like. Just a warm body out there, like you mentioned, chew up a couple innings. I know the deadline is tonight too, I believe. Is that correct as well?
Yeah, I believe it's some kind of deadline. I think we were talking about that a little bit before recording, that like, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe it's like, if you got to be postseason eligible, you have to sign somebody basically for September. You can't just sign a guy, like the weekend before the playoffs and have him jump right into your playoff roster. So I think that's the rule, but also, I think overall, just for the Twins, if they bring in somebody like Brad Hand, if they bring somebody like Matzik, I mean, potentially they could help, and anything is better than nothing. But I also think that, it's like having Dallas Keuchel pitch. Like, it's out of necessity, but like, you're screwed either way, I think, is basically just the thing. If you bring somebody in, it may help, but it's not going to really move the needle either way any more than calling up some quadruple A reliever.
Yeah, and that makes sense too, on paper especially. Roco Report time, Game 3 versus Toronto. The Roco Report.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for the Roco Report is the fact that he tried to give that second inning. He tried to have him wear this one for Matthews, but I think the biggest thing, I'll tip my cap to Roco just right away, going to that position player, not pitching anybody. I mean, again, this is a weird Roco Report because they lost right on the jumps. There was nothing they could do. Yeah, really. There's no managerial moves. He just lost already. So he didn't make it worse, I think, is just the best win he could come out of this with.
Yeah, maybe the most slim pickings we've ever had for the Roco Report thus far this season. All right, plenty more deep dive from this one. Plus, got our nerdy stat of the day. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships. Also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors, they got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to the ultimate peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, they got it all. And whether you're into speed, power, or style, they got you covered. 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back with all the parts you need at the prices you want. Easy to turn your car into the MVP and keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Any quick injury updates? I feel like I ask this pretty much every other night at least. Buxton, Correa, Funderburk, Manny Margot left with a hamstring tightness, I believe. I feel like we've said Brooks Lee any day now for at least a week. What's the latest with any of these guys?
Your guess is as good as mine at this point with some of this. Like, we're just, I believe it when you see it. I've kind of said that, it's a little tongue in cheek, but it's also just like, I mean, in injuries, this isn't, it's a little snarky, but it's also, injuries can be weird, to give credit to the players. Like, injuries can be weird. They obviously want to be back out in the field. They need to make sure they're right. Because again, if you get hurt, if you re-aggravate an injury at this point in the season, you're done until 2025. Yeah. So you need to make sure everybody's fully healthy. I get that. But at the same time, it's really frustrating just waiting every single day for that. Twins activate Brooks Lee. Byron Buxton activated. Carlos Correa is going to come back next. Like, you're waiting for some kind of notification. And unless I missed something in the last 24 hours, I just have not seen anything that sounds like anybody other than Brooks Lee is imminent. But again, we've been saying Brooks Lee has been imminent for a few days. So again, we'll just believe it when we see it.
What worries you the most about this team these last 25 games or so? Because the pitching stuff is like pretty obvious. It's always the topic, it feels like. But I want to know how much of a case could be made for the Twins' offense struggling the way they have too. No runs tonight. They win last night. They only scored 2, though. 1 run versus the Braves in game 3. And then I'm trying to add it up here. 3 runs in 3 games versus St. Louis the series prior. So what's the deal? Where's the pie chart of blame and what worries you the most?
Yeah, I think in the lineup, obviously the bullpen, I think just worries me number one more than anything, especially because if you want to get in the postseason, your bullpen has to be really good. And it was for the Twins last season. And that's why they in the playoffs. And that's why they were competitive in both of their series. But with the lineup, I mean, it's just a team that's missing Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa, your 2 best hitters. And Royce Lewis, I think, cursed himself when he said he doesn't do slumps because he has been going through it since then. And again, Brooks Lee was a top prospect. He's been hurt. Some of these top guys in your lineup have been hurt. And you've had some nice contributions from guys like Carlos Santana and Jose Miranda and here in and here out. But overall, Max Kepler has kind of struggled over the last month. It's just been, the lineup is concerning, and it's mainly concerning because you just have your top, I'm lumping Brooks Lee in here just for sake of argument. You have 3 of your top hitters, but your 2 1-2 hitters are hurt. And that's going to impact any lineup. And at a time where you really need to outscore your opponents, like we've talked about with this bullpen and pitching staff being the way it is, having your top 2 hitters hurt just is always going to hurt your run production.
When I say most disappointing player this season, who comes to mind first thing for you? Knee-jerk reaction, because I know there's at least a few options, but Max Kepler's got to be near the top of the list for me in a contract year too, no less. Really had him pegged for a better season than what we've got.
Right. I mean, Max Kepler could be on that list. I know he had a really hot when he kind of off the IL, like around May, and like for that May through like mid-July played really, really well, but he's been ice cold for a long time. My most disappointing player is probably Ed Julian, just from the way he came in with so much hype and his defense improved. So I guess it's not a total disappointment, but I mean, Julian was going to make or break a big league career based on his ability to hit consistently well. And he just didn't do that. And he took it's not just the fact that it was a lot of weak contact, it was a lot of strikeouts looking and a lot of not taking borderline pitches even, but just being a little too passive at the plate and stuff like that. Just the things that, were kind of not red flags, but things that you could see potentially slowing him down in the big leagues, like every player has in some way, shape, or form. And the things that Julian, you're like, well, he could succeed if he does this, but he could fail if he does this. And he's been doing the things that would ruin his ability to be good in the majors. Now, he has played a little bit better over the last couple of weeks, I will say, but overall, just that was a guy pegged for like, this guy's got a bunch of prospects coming to take a spot, but he's going to hold his own at second he might have vacated that second base position to Brooks Lee for a while.
Right. Well, I'm a fling out one other name. How about this one? This is a hot take, perhaps. Carlos Correa. You're paying him all that money. It'd be different if you weren't paying him all that money. You're paying him all that money, and he's missed over a third, almost half the season. That's got to be up there too, or at least there's a conversation to be had.
He's on pace to miss half the season because he was out at the All-Star break. Exactly. Because he was going to miss the All-Star game. And that's the thing that makes it a little hot takey, is because he was an All-Star, and deservedly so. Right. He was one of the better players in baseball. He was mashing the baseball, and he's been hurt. And, he's being a little bit more deliberate because he did play through the plantar fasciitis last year, and he was terrible. So he's trying to basically say, well, let me save my bullets and get back to the end. But at this point, I mean, yeah, like you said, it's hard when he hasn't played. So it's disappointing. And, maybe it's not traditionally disappointing, but it's disappointing the fact that you saw the $30 million player in the first half of the season. That's you were getting what you were paying for in the first half, and now he's hurt, and now you're not getting what you're paying for it. And with each day he misses, that value keeps getting worse and worse for the Twins. So I could see the argument there.
Nerdy stat of the daytime. You got any crazy stat or fun analytic Twins related? Lay it on us.
Yeah. So looking at the nerdy stat, we're going to go back to win probability. I just want to let you know when the win probability in the top of the first inning, 95% win probability for the Blue Jays before the Twins even grab a bat, before they even take a pitch. they have a 5% chance to win. Just brutal tonight.
Yeah. That's the top half of the first inning. That's just absolutely insane. All right, don't go anywhere. Got to preview this last home game versus Toronto and the upcoming schedule. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members to date. And for me and my money, it's just by far the easiest. It's the most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and you watch your favorite players. So simple. All you got to do, you pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season, obviously, in full swing here. So whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, you name it, they got it. Take your pick on more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the Prize Picks app. Use code, this is all lowercase, Locked On MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, one more at home, trying to end on a high note, trying to salvage this 9-game homestand. 2-6 now on this 9-game homestand, by the way. Bailey Ober on the mound tomorrow. What's the scouting report? What are some of the biggest, matchups, storylines, whatever it may be, you're looking at for this game 3?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to salvage everything you can. The good news is you have Bailey Ober on the mound for that finale, and that's Pablo Lopez did his part, being the ace and being the stopper, and now we got to have another stopper again with Bailey Ober. The good news is he can do it. Now, he has the same type of problems that Matthews does. He's around the strike zone. He'll throw it up there. If they can time him up, it's going to be in trouble, and that's what happened in his last start again against Atlanta. But the positive news is, hey, what are the odds that he's a good pitcher? What are the odds that it's going to happen for 2 games in a row? And for Bailey Ober, I think this is just the biggest thing. You're in a really good position to salvage this series with Bailey Ober on the mound. And again, we'll see if that offense can try and help the Twins out. But again, it's going to be on Bailey Ober to not just pitch a low run baseball, but also, again, if he could pitch 6 and he's looking good, I wouldn't be surprised if Roco lets him go out for a 7th just to possibly set you up for, again, Jackson Duran to end the series.
Yeah, that would be nice. That's the ideal scenario for sure. What did you think of Jose Miranda at shortstop right at the end? Haven't seen that one before.
No, I think he was drafted as a shortstop and played that in the early minors. But I mean, like Miguel Sano was a shortstop prospect. So that means nothing. Like nothing. It's basically like every shortstop in every high school team is just the best athlete. And if you were good enough to get on a big league roster, you were probably playing shortstop in Puerto Rico where he's from. So it's cool to see him out there. It's cool to see. I mean, what the heck? You're losing the game anyways. Let's just have a guy go in a different spot and just be there and see if a ball gets hit to you. So, you know what? If Kyle Farmer can pitch, anything is possible.
That's true. Well said. Twins get pounded. They lose game 2. Zebby gets rocked. Game 3 tomorrow. Bailey on the mound. First pitch, early one, 1:10 p.m. Huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game right here, breaking it all down. Got to go check out all of CJ's work on Twitter. Give him a follow at BombCJ30, plus all the work he's always ripping up over at ZoneCoverageMN.com as well. Go like this video, subscribe to the channel. So close to 8,000 subscribers. That's always much, much appreciated. CJ Baumgartner, Luke Inman on X at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you next time. But until then, signing out.